year for some reason, but it's finally coming. I think we'll see more of it here. We'll probably see more of it at the World Championships. With that Pixelate Hyper Voice, it's now much more powerful offensively than it was last year, and also has some cool support options available in the last slot, like Trick Room and Encore.
And it looks like instead of seeing some of those cool options, we're just going to have a double sword battle, Aegislash and Politoed for Toler, and Aegislash and Salamence for Aaron. So the Salamence actually a Pokemon we haven't seen much out of Aaron, just sort of made a cameo appearance on that last match against Aaron. But a very popular Mega that's been relatively recent as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see what exactly he has here. There's a lot of different ways you can run the Mega Salamence, typically mixed nowadays, but Dragon Dance is also an option. But I guess one of the strange things about it is that it wasn't very good in that matchup against Angel, so we just never saw it. It's weird not to pick your Mega very much, but again, a sign of a veteran player, right? You're not just bringing his Mega to bring his Mega, bringing instead the best Pokemon for the matchup, and this time he thinks Salamence might be that Pokemon, even though if it does face down with the Gardevoir, he's got to be careful with it because Hyper Voice isn't going to feel good.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel like that's part of why you would bring Gardevoir, right? But, you know, apparently Aaron disagrees. So Salamence actually going to switch out in favor of Tyranitar, going to make sure that the weather is not in Toler's favor here. Does not want Toler to have control over any part of the game, including the weather. Actually, Aaron deciding that his leads were not great, switches out both of them. Aegislash switching out for Landorus. Very happy to be in the sand, though. As Politoed going to give a helping hand over to that Aegislash, switching over into a Blade, because if there's nothing a Blade needs more, it's a hand and an arm to support it. Shadow Ball into the Landorus slot, almost a KO, just barely hanging on, 8 HP, and that's from a helping hand Shadow Ball from Blade Form Aegislash.
Yeah, this Aegislash not holding a Life Orb, instead holding a different item, but still getting some big damage on that Landorus. Aegislash is still going to have a hard time dealing with it, but that's a great step. Toler cleverly not Ice Beaming the Salamence, which became the Tyranitar for piddly damage, instead getting a much better use out of its turn there. I guess the best use would have been to target the Landorus slot, but a much safer turn there, especially because I would guess this has happened before. Aaron switching that Aegislash out, having played a best of 3 already, you kind of learned some quirks of the matchup, such as which Aegislash is faster, and you've got to be very careful with the Life Orb version, because it's a little bit more delicate than your average sword.
Yeah, definitely. Toler's Politoed going to switch out as well, going to try and get that rain back on the field. Here comes the Rock Slide from Aaron's Tyranitar onto Aegislash and onto the Thundurus. Super effective damage. Thundurus going to be able to heal off a little bit of that with its Citrus Berry, so switches into a lot of damage. But the Earth Power into that slot, not going to take any damage. Shadow Ball from the Aegislash picks up the KO onto Landorus. So another KO for Toler, and a good position still with that Tyranitar just dealing a little bit of damage to the Aegislash, more damage to the Thundurus, but the Landorus incarnate form dealing no damage.
Yeah, that's a big deal here. That Landorus is one of the most dangerous Pokemon on Aaron's team, and also this Tyranitar being out with Thundurus really isn't that great. You think of this as being, advantage. Tyranitar, usually you've got the rock-type Pokemon, it's against the flying-type Pokemon, it should want this, right? But Tyranitar gets much less effective if it gets paralyzed. With that Choice Scarf, it doesn't have any choice but to switch out or take the Thunder Wave, and he's not going to want to switch out and give his Salamence that paralysis instead for free, so Tyranitar just kind of has to take it here.
Yeah, Tyranitar, you can see Aaron trying to change moves a little bit earlier. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, the Choice Scarf not going to let him do that. Thunder Wave, though, will hit the Tyranitar. It stays in as Toler's Aegislash going to protect itself with King Shield. Rock Slide into the King Shield and then a Void from Thundurus. So no damage dealt from that Rock Slide onto Thundurus, and now there's just a paralyzed Tyranitar on the field, and Aegislash trying to get the Shadow Ball onto Toler's Pokemon, but into the Protect as well. So just a free paralysis for Toler, and that's Choice Scarf Tyranitar. When it's paralyzed, there's no reason for it to be out on the field, except to prevent something else from having something even worse happen to it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make this more difficult. It also makes this turn a lot harder for Aaron. If there wasn't a paralyzed Tyranitar there, you're threatening the knockout on Thundurus, which I guess he maybe should have gotten anyway, but both of his Pokemon are in danger now. He's got this Blade Form Aegislash, which he wants to King Shield to avoid exposing, but if he does that, he's kind of leaving the Aegislash on Toler's side alone just to Flash Cannon Tyranitar, pick up that knockout, which, as much as paralyzed Tyranitar isn't that useful, you don't want to get down to 2 Pokemon remaining this early in the match.
That is definitely true. Aegislash on Aaron's side going to switch out for the Salamence, hoping to get a free switch in here. But Hidden Power from Thundurus, who is it going to target? Oh, it targets the Tyranitar slot. Toler trying to hit the Salamence, but picks the wrong switch in. So Aegislash now on Toler's side, going to do that Shadow Ball again, most likely onto the Salamence. Yeah, going to deal some free damage to Salamence, a good amount of damage actually, and another Avoid from Thunderous. So Tyranitar paralyzed, and yeah, I think the sand's getting in its eyes a little bit.
Yeah, it's having a rough go of it this game. Toler makes a pretty hard read there. I was a little bit surprised when I saw that hidden power. Would have been a great catch if he got the Salamence.
Had the right idea, wrong target.
Yeah, a lot of players, when they do something like that, they'll kind of like say hidden power and flash cannon Tyranitar. So if you get the switch, you get a knockout. If you don't get the switch, you get a knockout and guarantee the 2-4. He may have thought it was a little bit more valuable just to get some damage on the Salamence slot, which could be true. You know, Salamence certainly the Pokemon most likely to turn this game around now. So missing so much of its health, being in danger of being paralyzed here if it doesn't protect, which if it does would open up Aegislash to pick up that knockout of Tyranitar anyway. It's looking pretty bleak for Aaron in this first game.
Yeah, really backed into a corner for Aaron. Both of those Rock Slides not hitting Thunderous, meaning that the paralysis pressure is still very much on. So we'll have to see if this Salamence in its second game here on stream can prove its worth. Salamence going to Mega Evolve, trying to get any damage off if it can, or just protect. Does not want to take another potential Thunder Wave. Aegislash, on the other hand, going to also protect, so no risk of the Flash Cannon onto Tyranitar. So Tyranitar still going to stick around for one more turn at least. And Thunder Wave does come out from the Thunderous into the Protect. Tyranitar, third time's the charm. No! 3 straight evades, but now the sand's gone, so maybe Tyranitar can see more clearly now.
Yeah, Aaron seems to have a thing for chain missing moves. This time it's Rock Slide, just can't hit that Thunderous. There's an extent to which I don't know how much it matters. Like, I don't, like, I mean, it's helping. Like, Salamence probably getting paralyzed here, or perhaps the Aegislash isn't a bad thing for Toler, but it's like, I think Toler's kind of expecting the battle to progress as well. It's just, it's a little awkward for both players, but certainly to Toler's advantage.
Yeah, definitely to Toler's advantage. Of course, now you have the Tyranitar paralyzed. At least it's not fully paralyzed, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's trying to attack. I don't know if it's better or worse to be doing what Tyranitar is using, but it is different.
Yeah, going to be very interesting to see if that Tyranitar can actually get off an attack. Salamence switching back out. Aaron really wants to make sure that Salamence doesn't get paralyzed, really hoping to set up a sweep there. Hidden Power, actually, from the Thunderous onto the Salamence slot, going to hit the Aegislash, while Toler's own Aegislash uses that substitute. As we saw earlier, it's a much more defensive sword and shield than some of the other ones we've seen. Rock Slide finally connects. You can hear a cheer erupt from the crowd for Tyranitar finally doing what it should have done 4 turns ago.
I mean, it tried so hard, though. You know, it was an extensive effort there by Tyranitar finally getting its knockout.
Good hustle out there.
Maybe a little bit too late in this game, but you know, it does bring it down to 3-3. You know, as bad as this looks, the game is technically still tied here.
Yep, still tied, but Toler does have his Aegislash behind a substitute, and that Tyranitar is still locked into its Rock Slide and Paralyzed. So it can still switch out to reset the choice lock, but it'll be switching into a Salamence while there's a Politoed on the field.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those at what cost switches. You know, even a Scald right now could be very close to picking up a knockout. The Aegislash on Aaron's side is going to have a difficult time getting anything done here. If it breaks that substitute, that's very likely as a Life Orb Aegislash. It is quicker than the more defensive one, which would make it a very easy knockout for the enemy Aegislash.
Well, it looks like Aaron is going to go for the play to try and get Salamence back on the field. Hopefully does not take any damage, but Scald from Politoed. That Salamence is pretty low, not quite picking up the KO. 4 HP, no burn too, so that Salamence is going to be around for one more turn. Unless this Aegislash was targeting it. Shadow Ball from Aegislash into the Salamence. So even with the switch in, the Salamence still goes down, and Aaron loses his Mega.
That wise play by Toler there. There's really just not much reason to risk it against the enemy Aegislash. He's got a number of ways to deal with it. It almost has to King Shield there because of the pressure from the substitute on Toler's Aegislash. He's just got very decisive control of this game and almost definitely going to be taking the advantage here. Yeah,
Tyranitar back on the field, but paralyzed means that it's just going to be slow and can only use one attack, especially as it's the last Pokemon, the last 2 Pokemon on the field for Aaron. So we'll have to see what Aaron's going to lock himself into here, and then Most likely just a scouting turn for Toler just to see what he has to deal with, but could still go on the offensive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the smartest thing to do, though. If he wants to, he can just double target the Tyranitar, pick up an easy knockout there, and just kind of trust that Aegislash isn't going to take a 4-on-1 very well.
Well, it looks like Toler is going to go on the offensive, helping hand onto his Aegislash for the Shadow Ball into Aaron's Aegislash. That is shield form, but it is still going to pick up the KO. A super effective hit, and Aegislash goes down, and now it's just that paralyzed Tyranitar still going to lock itself into Rock Slide, which basically means that substitute is never going away. Deals some damage to Politoed, not very effective onto Aegislash, but of course, since it's not in shield form, it does actually break the substitute.
Yeah, I mean, we'll all mourn the substitute, but a big knockout there, and also kind of interesting to see that Aegislash moving so quickly. I was expecting a slower version of this Pokemon than what we saw. But typically, when you're using the substitute moveset, you run it a little bit slower, use more defensive training, but Toler's got some tricks.
Yeah, Toler definitely has some tricks up his sleeve. Aegislash and Politoed going to be able to pick up the KO here onto Tyranitar. Game 1 going Toler's way with that Scald, and now a Shadow Ball again from Aegislash. Not sure if he just didn't want to show Flash Cannon, doesn't have Flash Cannon, or, well, finally Tyranitar is paralyzed, so next turn, actually, that Politoed's going to be able to pick up the KO onto Tyranitar.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't have Flash Cannon, it could explain a lot about this game so far, actually. It'd be a very strange choice, and I wonder if Aaron would have seen whatever his other moves could be.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big piece of information, considering that Aegislash was pretty powerful this game without having to show it.
Yeah, definitely. So Toler going to take game 1 here, but some information learned by Aaron knows now that either that Aegislash doesn't have Flash Cannon or just doesn't want to use it.